And we're back once again, only on it's Last Call. Last Call to the Alcohol, only on the lastcallpodcast.com. And joining me here, well, from Full Circle Radio, we need a guy, and Kevin Apollo has always said, if you want somebody who knows the business and will give you a straight, honest answer, knows the history of it, this is a guy to talk to. A guy who is uncensored, unscripted, and well, he is highly educated. I give you 21-year pro wrestling veteran, commentator, manager, promoter, booker, the East Coast new version of Paul Heyman. I give you it's JJ Alexander. JJ, so let's start off here. I'm going to put you right on the spot. All right, so Triple H has brought up, let's call it the trio, the holy trio, which is Oba Femi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans. And yes, we will ignore the Kevin Nash comments because that'll be a whole different podcast between two of us. But
Mhm.
we've seen him so far. You're a booker. You know, I know you will have ideas. So right now, is WWE doing a good job with all three of them? Could they do better? How would you book these three?
Javon Evans is getting booked correctly right now. He's a generational talent who has nowhere to go but up. He knows what he's doing. He's very sound in what he does. He's got the crowd's attention. Whatever path they keep him on currently is fine. He's super over whether he has a title or not, and there's nothing but good things for him in the future. Trick Williams, the jury is still out for on me. He showed improvement over the last couple of years because he was very wooden in a lot of the things he did in NXT after they split him off from Carmelo Hayes. He proved himself a bit in TNA, but I think he still has a big fish in a small pond mentality. I think that he's getting gassed up way too much by certain people. Like, yes, he's got a great look. Um, People want to say that Jey Uso is an entrance merchant. I will disagree with that until the cows come home. I think Trick Williams is an entrance merchant because you take away that chant, which wasn't even his, it was already established with the Memphis Grizzlies. You take that away, and you need to see what he can do with on his own. I don't think he should be getting pushed so far as he is right now, right into the main event scene. He's a mid Carter and remains a mid Carter until he proves otherwise. He hasn't found that extra gear yet. Oba Femi has been getting shoved down our throats. He is greener than a leprechaun's dick, should not be on the main roster, needed to stay down in NXT. He should have been working house shows. They shouldn't have thrown titles on him left and right. Yeah, he's a big, jacked guy. That's great. That doesn't automatically mean you're the next Brock Lesnar. And people need to realize that. I had an argument with Phil Marks from PWT when I had him on my show a few weeks ago, where I sat there and I broke down his entrance. And you can see when he's walking through the entranceway, he has a blind look in his eyes. He's literally counting his steps. He is that nervous where he has to count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to do his strut. They're protecting him right now. That's why they're throwing him into this program with Rusev, because that's who was working with him in NXT on the NXT house shows. But the thing was, they should have had him working NXT house shows at the beginning, not after he had already won the title twice. So jury is very much out on Oba Femi. I'm not saying he'll never get there, but he's getting shoved down our throats way too early.
How much is it? And I'm glad you brought up Javon. Like of the three, he's the only one who started not in NXT. I mean, this is a guy
Right.
who worked for the LeBron Kazone Academy,
Mm-hmm. I know a
graduated
couple guys that helped
14.
train
Yeah,
him.
he's I
Yep.
mean, he's been doing this since 2023 before he got to WD. So does that help him in terms of the other three? Like, okay, I've done this. I know what's going on. I didn't have to just get shoved into the NXT, which is just basically a one size fits all sort of training.
Yeah, exactly. He got his reps in. He learned how to work in front of actual crowds, not the manufactured crowd that's at the PC. And I say manufactured because it's almost the same crowd every week. You can go, the people that live locally can buy blocks of tickets up to 3 to 4 months in advance at like $10 a seat. So they just do it. So it's always the same crowd. When you're working in front of the same crowd week in and week out, it's the crowd thinking that they're dictating who the next person that's over is. And we saw how much of a detriment that was in the black and gold days with Full Sail University. It was the same people there that are at the PC now, and someone would be over like Rover on NXT, and then they would bring him up to the main roster, and it would be crickets. I remember the first time Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn showed up on Raw, nobody cared. Nobody knew who they were. Nobody cared.
So what do you do with Van with Trick? Because it's he again, again, he shouldn't be in the main event.
Nope. They need to give Trick a bunch of mid card, they need to give him a bunch of mid card stuff to do that's not associated with people he's used to working with. Because what I feel like is they're gonna realize that they can't keep him in the main event picture, so they're gonna take him right down to the US title picture and automatically have him start feuding with Mello, which we've already seen. And he's comfortable with that. You need to get him out of his element. You need to have him work with people who will tell him what to do, work with him, tell him to slow the hell down, work with him not only in ring but on promos. People like putting him with Sami Zayn is a beautiful thing. Sammy can teach him a lot of things. Randy Orton can teach him a lot of things, but you can definitely see a strife difference between the way he interacts with Randy Orton and the way Javon interacted with Randy Orton. You can tell there's a big difference between the two where Javon listens and Trick kind of has a bit of a chip on his shoulder already.
But those are main event guys. I mean, I guess that's the problem. It's like, okay, when you go down like Sammy, Randy, Jacob Fatu, Drew, Cody, they're the main event.
Yeah,
So then the next step is, well, Carmelo. He's already been, you want to keep that away because he just did that NXT.
right.
Ray Phoenix is a great wrestler, can't cut a promo probably a lot. And even Ilya, you're trying to figure, okay, we don't want him just going over Ilya. So
Mm-hmm.
how much does it hurt Trick that there's sort of not this like mid car like a maybe a Miz type baby face where okay, he can get the steps, he could do a program, and it's not right with the main event guys, but it's not all the way to like Matt Cardona, Apollo Cruz, where you're going, okay, people feel, oh, he's getting deep pushed, he's getting buried.
I mean, if number one, if you're on TV, you're not getting buried. That's rule number one. It's you're buried when you have no job anymore. That's buried. But having him work with Cardona and Apollo Cruz is the level he should be on right now. And that's not to knock Apollo Cruz. Matt Cardona, I could care less about, but it's not knocking him. It's he needs to be in there with experienced people who can show him how to work that mid card level. Because if you put him in the main event and then you keep him in the main event, he's going to think that he's always a superstar. And that's how guys get a big head. And that's when they get sloppy and that's when they get an attitude. And you don't want that, especially with guys this young.
So what do you do with Oba? I get it, he's not Brock Lesnar. He's also not like anybody else in the main roster. I mean, and this is, look, I'd argue that ever since the explosion of UFC and pro football, even bigger, but you've seen bigger and bigger guys become less frequent in WWE and even AEW TNA. If you are a big 6'4" high school kid, well, pro wrestling is like the last thing you're thinking of. You're thinking NFL, NHL, even,
Mhm.
CFL could pay more. So Oba is sort of, this giant among a lot of small indie guy builds. So what do you do with him when he has it? I mean, most people say, you look at me and go, holy crap, he's larger than life.
They portray him as larger than life. Yes, he's 6'4", but so are a bunch of other guys on the roster. Like it's people, it's because of the fact that we got so used to smaller guys in the main event picture that every time a bigger guy comes along, they think, oh my God, this guy's going to be the next thing. And if the problem is, especially when you got a guy who's as green as Oba Femi, because he has way too much, like, number one, he's green in the ring. Number two, he's green on the mic. That fake accent has to go. It is terrible. It will be his detriment until it's gone. He he needs a complete overhaul, completely to be completely honest. they're already bringing him in to do the squashes, and people are comparing it to, oh, this is what they had Lesnar doing. Yeah, they also had Ryback doing this in 2011, and that went nowhere eventually because people got sick of it. So they need to cool the brakes on having him be this giant destroyer and doing things like taking out the War Raiders who like are his size. And it's just like, nope, he just makes quick work of them. Like, no, you don't do that. You want to have him take out a tag team, you have him take out Los Americanos. You do stuff like that. You have him work mid card people, and then you test the waters to see in 6 months if he's worth putting in a mid card title feud. Because I am severely worried that I was worried when Dom Mysterio got injured and they were introducing him. I was like, they're just going to vacate the title and throw it right on this guy right away. Thank God they didn't do that, but I had a severe worry that they were going to. And it's just a matter of it's he needs to learn how to walk before he learns how to run. And there's other guys there who didn't learn that either, who they do things to put a band-aid on them to make them seem bigger than they are, and it's not working. I'm looking at almost everyone in the Vision with the exception of Austin Theory. Everyone there has a flaw, and they said, let's just stick them with Paul Heyman and that'll fix things. And it does not do that.
So who can so for the mouthpiece, who do you stick him with then? I mean, in the perfect world, you have maybe a Paul Ellering type.
I
And
mean,
I don't want to say Heyman because Heyman you can almost stick Heyman with everybody, but somebody a perfect. I'll give you a perfect example. Pat McAfee, somebody who can literally be the hype man, the talker, but so until Oba's ready to talk and figure out who he is, but who is out there? I mean, there's not a lot of managers. It's Don Callis, it's Paul
I
Heyman, and
mean,
then nobody
tr-
really.
trust me, I know. That's why I stopped taking bookings because managers are hardly used anymore. That's why I stopped taking bookings as a manager a long time ago. But the thing is we live in an era where we're past the era of managers, unfortunately. That was a hard fact for me to learn years ago. These guys need to be able to talk for themselves. Oba Femi, we know of one time he had one interview on Level Up without the fake accent where he just said, hi, this is me, this is where I went to college, and that's all. No one's tested anything besides that. They slapped him with this cartoonish gimmick where they're making him the Timu version of Umbaku from Black Panther, and it's going to come back and bite him. People want to say like, oh my god, he's amazing. Yeah, you know something, people look back and laugh at Kofi Kingston for the fake Jamaican accent that he had for years. They're doing the same thing with Oba Femi right now. So they need to get rid of the stupid character. Or a guy can be a world beater without literally being a caricature of a comic book right now. Like it's just that it's poor creative. And I'm not going to put all the blame on the kid because, you know, the kid obviously wants to be there and has stayed in shape and everything, but he's got a long way to go to prove himself.
How much does it hurt that he like Javon Evans is a wrestler
Mm-hmm.
who got into wrestling, did this. Trick Williams is a guy who went to Division I college football, played, probably got media training,
Mm-hmm.
understands how to talk. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is a shot putter.
Mm-hmm.
Probably didn't have a lot of media training because nobody really interviews track people
Right.
unless you're going to the Olympics. He literally has been doing this since you could argue November 11, 2022, so less than 4 years. I mean,
Right.
what should we expect from him, and how do you teach something to a guy who this is probably still new? A lot of this, he's still like trying to, as you said, he's walking down, he's counting his steps, he's still trying to figure out, okay, get that confidence to be able to do this, almost like it's brushing his teeth.
You keep him working main event matches for main event, and when he's not once he gets established into what show they're going to keep him on, once that happens, you send him to that show, you have him, you use him sparingly, you use him like, perfect example, you didn't see Omos out there every week. Omos is an attraction. You want to keep this guy an attraction until you know that he's sound in everything he does. And in the meantime, you have him work whatever house shows possible that are scheduled. You have him work main event tapings, and you have him go down to the PC and you drill him. You drill him on promo classes, not drill him on in-ring stuff, drop down this. I mean, he still needs to work on that too, because you can tell he's very like sporadic on what he does in some of his movements. Not everything he does is smooth. And I've just noticed this because I've worked in wrestling schools and I've seen how to train. And you can pick up on these things. And he's just not there yet. But they're using the media influence to give him this, to manufacture an aura for him right now. And grizzled old vets like me can see through it.
All right, so of the three, who do you have the most faith in? Who do you have the least faith in terms of being a success?
Most faith is Javon Evans, bar none. Least faith right now is Oba Femi. He needs to prove himself.
Well, let's go to the next topic here, which this is going to be a hot take. Jade Cargill has had one of the worst title runs I can think of in a long time. And I'm not
I
blaming
agree.
Jade. I actually like her. I think she's improved, leaps and bounds, especially since she went to AEW and they did a horrible job. What's gone wrong? And how much of this is Triple H and the booking committee going, yay, we have a title on her, and yay, she has a title, and we'll figure it out. Don't worry. Well, we're not sure what, but we'll figure it out.
The huge problem is she never went down to NXT. She should have started there. That's the major issue with her is she signed and everyone's like wondering where she should go. And it was like the obvious answer was NXT because she still needed to learn proper television in ring and stuff like that because she was too used to the indie-rific nonsense from AEW and she never got that out of her system. And the problem is nowadays the the creative team, it's because it's more than just trips. It's the creative team as a whole, and it's the people that are there, and they think that they can do these stopgaps and be like, oh well, we sent her down to the PC and we had her run drills there and we had to do this or that. No, you need to actually work in front of people. And Jade, her promos are all right. I'll give her that. In ring, she's the problem is she never did that heavy training regimen to get better. So now you don't know if she ever can get better. Honestly, like the title reign is kind of it is what it is. They kind of did it just to, it was a shock and awe. They wanted to heal his champion, and they wanted someone that wasn't one of the established names. But because Jade looks like a star, I will give her that. But they also got to consider the dance partners they put her in there with. Jordan Grace has been carrying her. Tiffany Stratton, that was the blind leading the blind between the two of them. Neither of them were ready to be in a main event program together. She obviously, and what really bothers me is when they did that injury angle with her, they could have used that as an opportunity to get her more seasoned, and they didn't do it. They just let her do what she wanted to do and film the commercials and all that stuff and come back when she wanted. And the problem is she's one of Cody's pet projects. And that's why she's protected. And that's a big issue. So honestly, she needs to drop that belt to a severely over baby face by WrestleMania, probably at WrestleMania. She needs to go away for like 5-6 months, and she needs to start at square one. She needs to do some in-ring training. She can pop up on house shows here and there if they do them. She can pop up on, like, if they go on a European tour or something, but not televised. And just, have her show up in AAA for a hot minute. Like, have her work with some of those girls too. Like, she needs more seasoning.
How realistic is that, though? I mean, and I've argued this with people. Yes, she's not a great wrestler. She looks like a star. She is somebody that can walk down the street and your head turns like, oop.
Yeah, she
I
passes the
mean, and,
airport
and
test.
look, there's people you and I love probably. Deanna Purrazzo. I'll throw out Bailey. I'll even throw out people like Willow Nightingale, and they just don't have it. They are not stars. They are good wrestlers, but they are not stars. Jade is a star. So how realistic is it to go, all right, we're going to have you drop the title, then go to NXT and yeah, you can train and work when she still, she walks out there and she makes money. She can draw money because she is hot. She can talk a bit and she looks like she can beat the crap out of most people.
She does. And I'm not saying send her back down to NXT televised and everything. I'm just saying have her drop the title and have her do a filmed diva fit where she's like, I'm done with this place and walk out, storyline wise. And then you just have her you have her work with people. Like you have her, you have her, go down, go down to not even the PC. Like just send her other places. Just have her work on her own time. Like rent out a place, set up a ring. Like when Rock had to get ring ready again, and he had Gallus working with him to get better. Do something like that, and that way it's off of the grid, and she's getting trained in what she needs. So then she leaves the night after Mania, and then she comes back the week after SummerSlam. There's a big pop because she went away, and she can prove herself again. And if she's improved, it'll automatically show. And then you've found the improvement that you need. And it's a sink or swim type of situation.
How much did it also hurt that Naomi gets pregnant?
Mm-hmm.
Bianca Belair has a hand injury that almost turns into now longer than a year. She's
Yeah.
now supposed to miss WrestleMania.
Right.
Uh, Chelsea Green is now injured. You've put,
Mm-hmm.
Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair as a tag team, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you look at all these people she could have worked with.
Yeah.
Is
And
is I
that's a
mean,
big
how
problem
badly
too.
has Triple H sort of screwed SmackDown Women's up? Where it's like, all right, you have Tiffany, you have Jade, and you really have nobody else because everybody else is in this damn tag team thing. But hey, you forgot the singles women.
Right. And that's it's a weird dichotomy because for quite a few years the women's tag division was what it was. It was nothing. Now we have this like bolstering women's tag division with actual teams. And it's at the sacrifice of the singles division. And really you can see the imbalance in where they are. And at the same time, you have the underlying problem of because of Shawn Michaels booking, there has been too heavy of a focus on female talents in NXT. So now you have a bottleneck of all these female talents who are waiting to come up, and you don't know where to put them and you don't know how to use them because they're not, you can't just throw them into the main event on Raw and SmackDown. They haven't been tested yet. People like Jordan Grace are the exception to the rule because of how much time she did in TNA. So yeah, it really and it like having Naomi and Bianca out really hurt her because they were her riding partners. She was learning from them. And when that went away, you can tell she just kind of like deer in headlights again. So she needs to be with people. Like I would not be opposed to giving her a baddies section in WWE. Give her a couple of female workers to be her, to be her muscle, for lack of a better term, to be her disciples, to help protect her while she's learning better. And that way you can throw her in freaking, 6-woman tags and stuff like that. And that way she's still on the show. She's still an attraction. She's getting more reps in, all that stuff. It would be advantageous.
So who do you give her then? Because it's sort of like, well, Zelina Vega, no, she's too small. Julia, no, that doesn't really work.
Kalani Jordan.
So you're bringing up more kids. I mean, again, it's like you hate to say it, but either they have to start releasing people, which they
Oh
don't really
yeah.
seem to want to do,
Mhm.
or they got to start going, well, maybe we sacrifice, I don't know, maybe like an Italia or, God, I'm throwing this out there here. Maybe break off, like an Oscar, something like that, where it's like, all right, we're giving you two veterans you could learn from, but they also, aren't just going to be like, oh yeah, they're just a bunch of kids running around, and you're going, great, the blind leading the blind. Like, who would you put her with right now on the main roster? If you go, all right, these will be your partners, enforcers, and it doesn't look like it's the hodgepodge.
Honestly, I would have put her with Nia Jax. I would have had Nia be the freaking Nash to her Michaels. But unfortunately, that ship has sailed. I would not put the tandem of Jackson and Lash with her because Lash is the drizzling shits.
I'll be a
Um,
different story, a different day. Let's go to the final subject here. This is all right. It seems like they booked themselves into a corner here with Rio. Io Sky is the nicest person around, and everybody sort of knows that.
mhm.
Rhea Ripley could probably get caught beating a baby seal to death, and people would
And still
still
be over.
cheer her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, short of her all of a sudden just having a love affair with Logan Paul, like, how the hell do you break this team up without it looking like, huh? Even you're stumped. You're like, God damn it, I can't figure it out.
No, I just you have to take the see, this is the unfortunate thing. We know the split's coming. It's not going to happen until Mania. Unfortunately, that split this is going to be one of the worst booked angles of the year. Mark my words. Because I don't know if they will be the ones pinned in it, but they are going to end up dropping the tag belts to the freaking Bella twins. And it's going to be awful. And that's how they're going to split the two of them up. It's going to be terrible, unfortunately, and it's going to hurt both of them. Honestly, the way it should be is there should be some sort of four-team scramble. They don't get pinned, but they lose the belts.
Which still
But
might
it
happen
should
because you still have all
right,
these people you're trying to get on Mania, like
right,
Charlotte, Alexis, Bailey,
right,
um,
right.
Lyra Valkyrie. You gotta get Lash and Nia on the show. It's like, okay, we gotta figure this out. So we might have a five-way tag team.
It's a possibility. But as far as you can separate them and just I mean the elimination chamber would have been the way to go. You could have had one of them win the chamber and then go to the other show to challenge for the belt there. Like that would have been an easy one and done. And just be like, and that way it's an amicable split because we have gotten too used to in modern wrestling a tag team splitting means one has to turn on the other. You never see an amicable split. It can happen and it's not bad if it does, and you can do things like have one of them win the rumble and go to the other show, one of them win the elimination chamber and go challenge on the other show, and that's just the way it is, and then they can come back and revisit teaming together way down the line because it's great that they won the belts. They beat the big bad. It was the big happy moment that night. They're both super over. Rhea has elevated Io to a level that, it was the gear that she didn't even know she had. Um, a lot of us thought that Io Sky was never going to get past a certain level. And between the three-way at Mania last year and the match at Evolution, there was proof that it could happen, and she broke through that ceiling. Now the matter is, what do we do with it? Because people want to cheer both of them. I love heel EO. I think the like the first inception of the heel EO from NXT was some of her best character work. I don't think it's the time to bring that back. I just think that someone needs to. I think it needs to be an ample split, and one of them goes to the other show. That's the only way you're going to be able to salvage this.
With Rhea, how tough is it where they're sort of booked in a corner with her also? It's like, all right, we you got the title off of her. And it's sort of like, who do you put her in with if you break him off? It's like if she goes over to SmackDown and beats Jade, we're looking at again be sort of the Rhea Hogan where Rhea just destroys everybody, then there's nobody, and as you've seen, it can get just
In all honesty, I thought that I think there's money in if you want to keep Rhea out of the singles, if you want to have EO go off on a singles run, Rhea still wants to stick in the tag division. And you want to do something where it's going to elevate both people and it's going to make you a boatload of money, I would put Rhea and Stephanie Vaquer together.
could they do that though? Knowing especially how much they've sunk into Stephanie. She's one of the few people you could argue went to NXT, got over, has gone to WWE, gotten over, and
Mhm.
she's one of a few probably international talents that has been able to learn English quickly. Like not
Yeah,
it's taken a couple of years and you're like, yeah, where you're still not sure about speaking English. She can pull it off. So
yeah.
do you just take the title off of Stephanie as soon as she gets that big sort of singles feud? Not, and I'm not talking Nikki Bella. I'm actually talking, Liv Morgan.
Apparently, everyone in creative has a hard on for Liv Morgan, and they're gonna put a belt on her anyways. So that's the world we live in. So it would be better for I don't want to see Stephanie drop the belt, but she's gonna. We know she's gonna. So the only thing that I think could salvage is to put her with Rhea. And a lot of people are like, oh, they should feud with each other. No, they should work together. There's more money to be made in that. You can keep your women's tag division strong. You can bridge off on there. It's you can the Rhea and Stephanie could be the team that Isla Dawn and Alba Fire were trying to be, that they wouldn't let get over enough.
Well, we're going from some which I know you're like, okay, it's fine, but there could be improvements. Let's go to. I'm giving you the blowtorch because I'm still trying to figure this out under AEW. So I guess they are bad guys, but they're also good guys. They are feuding with the Cows family, but they're also feuding with, I guess, the conglomerate. It makes no sense. What are we supposed to make of a Death Riders, aka the worst gimmick ever in AEW? That's saying a lot. Because man, this is just I'm getting a
This is what
headache trying to
happens.
figure this all part out.
This is what happens when you let workers have creative control, and they shouldn't have creative control. Moxley is just off on his own island thinking that everything he's doing is amazing, and it's not. And just the stable as a whole, you've got Pac, who either can't stay healthy or can't keep his visa in order. So, and it is what it is. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, he's in good shape, but he's little. He's Dobby on steroids. Like, yay. Wheeler Yuta is useless. Useless, useless, useless. The kid can run just because the kid can, work a match, on the indies and, kind of like, pop a couple of moves or whatever. No, the kid's useless. There's nothing in him. Moxley just, the only way to save him is to tell him, go home, get in shape, come back, and you're going to do what we tell you to do. Because his ideas are just terrible. He has no direction. Claudio, I love Claudio to death. I think Claudio is one of the greatest workhorses on the planet, but the man has no charisma. That's been his ceiling for years upon years upon years. And he's gotten to the point now where it's like you kind of done all you can do. Get your paycheck, but when you're done with AEW, you better give Hunter a call and be like, "Can I go join my wife and be a trainer down at the PC?" Because that's your safety in your future. The entire Death Riders thing is just useless and needs to go away.
How did it get bad? Because on paper, this should have worked. You have Cesaro, you have Moxley, you have Pac. Yeah, you have Wheeler Utah, but there's always just again like one guy where you got to drag along. You have Maria Shafir, who in
Is
her
terrible.
role she's fine at. Like, how did this get so bad? And how is it that it's awful? And even on paper it says it should be well. It's like it's awful.
The problem is it started off with an inkling of hope back when it was still the Blackpool Combat Club. But the moment Regal was gone, there was no reason for the stable to stay together. And they decided to keep them together for what, 3 years now after that? It's no. You know, you did, it's, it was, it's, and this is a really poor comparison, and I hate to use it, but it's the closest thing I can think of. It was like continuing on with the Four Horsemen without JJ Dillon, and like when they just started replacing people willy nilly. And there were those few inceptions of the Horsemen that just, they kept throwing in people like Luger and Sting, and it didn't matter. It was when people think of the Horsemen, they either think of Flair, Arn, Wyndham, and
Tully
Tully,
Blanchard.
or some will think of the inception with Flair, Arn, Benoit, and Pillman. Like anything else, any other inception of the Horsemen, it's like it shouldn't have been there. So that's kind of where we're at. And I hate comparing the Death Riders to the Horsemen because that's comparing apples to horse apples. But yeah, no. It's just they ran their course way early, and unfortunately, one guy has control of keeping himself on TV, and he keeps putting himself on TV with no direction.
So I've asked this with Kevin Apollo. I've asked
Mm-hmm.
this with Brian Idol. I'm going to ask you
Mm-hmm.
this. Can you teach charisma? Like as you
No,
said, you love Cesaro. He is, and if you put him in a wrestling match, he can go with anybody, whether it's Roman Reigns, whether
right.
it's Lucha, the Lucha Dragons. You
Yeah.
can put him in there with Andre with the Big Show, and he can have a
Mm-hmm.
five-star match.
Yep.
So how do you teach charisma? How can
You
you?
can't.
Is there any way you could put him into a guy like Cesaro or Claudio Castagnoli, or do you just have to have it?
You have to have it. The closest thing you can get to teaching charisma is putting a guy with someone with charisma so that it helps mask the fact that they don't have it. Cesaro was the most over when he was tagging with Sheamus. The bar as a tandem was over because Sheamus has the charisma.
Greatest booker right now, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. According to SI News or S Sports Illustrated, it's Tony Khan.
Yeah,
So he must.
illustrated.
I'm trying to figure out how many bribes he threw because I keep trying to watch AEW and I keep getting more and more angry. Like, how does he screw it up? You figure this. He has all the talent. He has money. Like, why is it that he can't get just like storylines, consistent, groups. Like, how is it after 6 years, it's still the same mistakes you're seeing like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago?
because he's because he thought that he could buy his way into the business. You can't go from being an e-fed booker to being an actual booker. And that it's a hard fact of life that I learned from almost day one when I got in the business was when I first got in and when I first trained, I was literally I was a commentator, I was a ring announcer, I was training to be a manager. But at the same time, I would sit there with the booker of the company that I worked for, and we would talk about things. And you need that kind of guidance where you can say, "Oh, I want to see this match," and then my boss would say, "Well, what's the fucking story?" And I would go, "Okay." And so then we would figure like if we would try to go down a route, we would try to figure out an arc of X amount of shows. And just booking an indie with storylines, number one is hard because you can never depend on talent because no one's under contract. It's always a handshake deal from show to show. But number two, it's just a matter of booking. Say you're an indie that runs every month and you want to do a 5 month story arc between these two guys, 5 matches, or some combination thereof. That takes a lot of focus just for that 5 matches. Now condense that down to being televised week to week. That 5 matches is a 3 week program. Then what do you do? And that's the problem. You can't just book matches and think that is a feud. You need to learn how to write the stories around it. There's a reason why there's only certain people were really good at telling stories, and people will look back now and say, "Oh, this match was great," or "Oh, that match was great." And then there's other people that go, "But you remember this story?" And then I can't tell you the matches that happened to it, but I can't tell you the beat for beat on the blow off, but I can tell you everything that led up to the blow off. When people talk about some of the greatest things in wrestling, they think of Dusty versus the Horseman. They think of they think of WCW versus the NWO. The year of Sting, climbing back to to try to save the company from Hogan. all that stuff. No one thinks of the match. And that's the mentality that Tony Khan has never gotten past. He's never had someone like a Dusty or a Bill Watts or a Paul Heyman or someone like that to sit him the hell down and say, this is what you're supposed to do. You can't just write people's names down on a ledger and switch them around and go, I'll have this guy work this match and this guy work this match. That's why the Continental Classic is so freaking annoying. It's just, oh, well, they do the G1 Climax in Japan. Yeah, Japan is a completely different animal. Japan, up until 10 years ago, never did stories. It was just matches. And that's why no one cared about Japan. You want to know when people started caring about Japan? Bullet Club. That's when people started caring about Japan because there was a story going on.
All right,
And
so I'm gonna try to
okay,
be nice here. I'm trying to be
okay,
nice.
okay,
What does Tony Khan do well? Because people say, "Oh no, this is a great show." There's even people say AEW is awesome. So what does he do well from an
nothing,
outsider?
nothing. I literally last night I was on Toonie Talk and we were watching the hype video of him and Danielson talking about like what matches were happening on Collision. And I broke it down beat for beat. I'm like, you're a multi-million-dollar company, supposedly, and you're shooting a cell phone video in a poorly lit conference room in a Marriott. Nobody's mic'd. No, you're just sitting there. You can tell that they're reading off of cue cards. You can tell it was a one take that they just threw up on social media. Like, no, you're in the big leagues. You're supposed to look professional. Even the pre-tapes that AEW did when they were partnering with TNA, those pre-tapes of Tony and Shivani standing in front of a green screen looked like they were filmed in a cable access studio. Like it didn't look professional. There is nothing that this guy does that looks professional or seems professional. And the very few times where he seems like he may have figured out the slightest thing, it's one step forward, five steps back. He thinks he's going to be smart by taking a bump on a show the weekend before the NFL draft. So just so he can appear on the NFL draft in a neck brace, just so they can ask him about his company. Okay, that's great. Okay, there's an inkling of a good idea there. They're going to ask you about your wrestling company. And that's when he mentioned, yeah, I got kind of hurt. I got into this business and it's not what I thought it was, but I'm really learning. But here's our show and this is what we do. No, what does he do? WWE is the Harvey Weinstein of wrestling. You idiot. You complete and utter moron. You had a golden goose egg right there and you just smashed it on the ground.
How
He
many wrestlers should he have in his company? Because right now they're at 150.
There's more than 150. That, in all honesty, I would say trim down to,
80?
let me think here, because I don't want to like disproportion and everything. You want to have you want to have 10 solid singles guys, 5 solid tag teams, and then so that's what? So that's 20, and then a good like 15 guys on the undercard that you can interchange. Like so yeah, so say 35 for your men's division. Your women's division 15 to 20. Because you shouldn't have a women's tag division. You should just have your women's singles until you're a more established product with more TV time. You don't need that many. So yeah, that needs to be trimmed down a lot, and that's counting both AEW and Ring of Honor because we all know Ring of Honor is just Dark Elevation behind a paywall. It's not like it's a separate company. So you should have 35 guys total for Dynamite Collision ROH. That's it.
Can he cut people? Do you think he has it in to start releasing people? Go, look, I'm trimming this down to, you know what? I'm gonna be nice. I'll trim it down to 100 because you and I both know there's talent that needs to be let go because they have
Mm-hmm.
nothing there. They're just wasting their time. But he doesn't
Yeah.
seem to want to do that. Can he, or is that just for him because he wants to be the nice guy because he wants to be everybody's friend? He can't find himself to be like Vince and go, all right, I'm firing you. There's no room. I'm letting you go. You're fired.
For some people, it's he wants to be the friend. For others, it's I don't want you going to WWE and showing up that I didn't know what to do with you. because every time someone gets released, I mean, look at has there been an AEW talent that's been worth a nickel that hasn't walked into the doors of WWE and instantly been made bigger? Like even at the low level, even people like Lexus King, who I think is getting horribly used in NXT, is still doing a boatload better in NXT than he was doing in AEW.
No, I mean, you can even argue that, it's like Ethan Page went from being nothing
Mm-hmm.
to,
Ethan
yeah,
Page
I
was
mean, again,
having a
it's
guy cut promos for him while he stood in the rafters and then did jobs on Rampage. Like, yeah.
like even Sean Spears has now had
Mm-hmm.
a role. It's like,
Yeah.
holy crap.
Yeah. So there's people that Tony won't let go just because he knows WWE can do something with them. Whether WWE chooses to pick up a person when they get released or not, that's their prerogative. But he's afraid because it's literally the adverse, it's the other side of the coin of WWE in 2019 when Vince was hoarding people and they were saying Vince was hoarding people because he didn't want them to go to AEW. It's the other side of the coin now.
We're getting this feud again.
Ugh.
As I could hear yeah, Kevin Apollo go, "What the fuck did we do to deserve this?" Well, I guess we're getting it again because no, not the fair. Because Tony wants it. That's MJF and Hangman Page.
It's Tony's got people in his ear making him think he wants it. It's Page being put in there because he's buddies with the Bucks. And it's Tony thinking that he can make Page this great savior because he thinks he pulled a rabbit out of his hat when Page won the title at All In from Moxley. And that wasn't about Page being the big hero. He thought it was. That was people were sick of John Moxley being the damn champ. And it wasn't the unconquerable heel heat. It was go the hell away. We're sick of seeing you on TV heat. And they wouldn't get they would have been happy if you had freaking Action Andretti beat Moxley for the belt at All In. They just wanted the belt off of him. And then it just proved that Adam Page is a halfway serviceable mechanic on his best day. That's it. He is terrible at promos. He has way too much of an attitude. He keeps horrible company and thinks it thinks it's still okay to stay friends with such horrible company. We'll leave that horse out to pasture. He is not worth anything. There is a reason why WWE never gave him a look. But Tony Khan thought that he was going to be this big thing just because when they were forming, for a matter of like 3 months, he was the top selling merch seller on pro wrestling tees. So Tony figured, oh my God, that means he's a superstar. No, it's because less than 500 people buy stuff off of pro wrestling tees. That's why.
Let's start with first MJF.
Mm-hmm.
When he first came to AEW, you looked at him and went, "Okay, he WB wants him. He is a
Yeah.
star."
Mm-hmm.
And look, when he's put with the right people, he can make money. Him and CM Punk was gold. Him and Cody Rhodes, gold.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Chris Jericho, that of Pinnacle versus, the Jericho Appreciation Society, gold. And now we're looking, it's like, oh my, and even him and Adam Cole were great as the buddy team that we never knew we needed, but we wanted. And it's just the last couple, almost year plus, it's gotten insufferable where it's like, oh God, he's now regressed to where he's
He's
Timu
treading water.
Biz.
He's treading water. He re-signed for a giant check, and Tony said, "I'm gonna let you go off and do what you want when you want to do it." So he's treading water, and that's the problem is he's not hungry anymore because he got this bag and he got it to basically to work to be an indie worker. I guarantee he still wants to go to WWE, The problem is, once he gets there, he's going to have a giant chip on his shoulder, and they're going to send him down to NXT because they're going to tell him, you need to learn. You need to learn what to do and what not to do. And yeah, okay, these promos were good there. You need to reel it in a little here, and you need to find a different way to expound upon your vocabulary and heal the crowd without relying on cheap heat. I have seen a ton of guys in my time that thought they were great talkers, but at the end of the day, they were literally just in the ring pulling your mama jokes and calling people gay and calling people fat, and that was it. You need to be able to expound more upon that. And I think he has that potential because we were seeing that when he was in MLW with Hammerstone and Holiday. So it can be done. The problem is, once he gets there, is he going to be willing to unlearn everything and relearn everything and be humbled? Because I think he can. I hope he can. But I've seen a lot of guys that will get that bag and then go somewhere else and be like, I don't have to learn any of this. I was here. I made this much money. I own 5 houses now because of this. That's great. You know where your paycheck's coming from this week? Because if you want to go out that door there, you can go somewhere else and figure that out.
Is there anybody in AEW who could elevate? Oh, sorry, we're going a little fast here. Is there,
Mhm.
going back to him quickly, is there anybody in AEW that you could match him with that could bring out the best in him? Or is AEW now just devoid of people either too old, part-timers, or they're not good enough on the mic to really draw him out?
They're really, as far as drawing power, there isn't anyone. As far as people that could work with him outside of Tommaso Ciampa right now, I couldn't tell you anyone.
Like, would it be behooving Tony to maybe go, all right, we're going to put you with Christian Cage. We'll put you with Adam Copeland. Somebody's guys at least who can get on the mic, work with him, and go, all right, we're going to do a promo here. And if you try to go rogue here, we can literally put you in your place.
I mean, the problem with that is you got those two guys are on their way out to the retirement home. And we all know that Adam Copeland, if you get under his skin during a promo, he breaks character and then he gets as juvenile as MJF has gotten. So that's not a good sign. It's a matter of it's for all of the flaws of the Vince era WWE, guys had a leash on them. And some of those guys needed leashes on them. It's like the same conversation everyone talks about Vince Russo and how when Russo went to WCW and TNA, how his booking was the drizzling shits. Why? Because Vince had a leash on him. MJF needs to know what it's like to wear a leash. Then we decide if he can stick around.
All right, this weekend, Ariana Grace won the TNA Women's Championship. I like it as a bold move. And I know the
Yeah.
TNA fans going, oh my God, another NXT person. If you're TNA, how big is it to sometimes to get a champion who can talk, who has heat, and can actually work a bit, rather than just somebody who can just work?
Yeah, she's a character. I don't see an issue with this. I'd rather see her with the title than someone like Dana Brooke. Like it's, people are going to complain no matter what, but the NXT relationship has been beneficial to TNA. TNA is getting more viewers week over week because of the relationship with WWE. So it's working. And the thing is, there is a balance. It's yes, there are NXT talents winning TNA titles, but there are TNA talents appearing on NXT and getting over. And in the general scheme of things, if an NXT talent wins a TNA belt, ultimately a TNA talent gets it back. It's an exchange. This is I put this on par with the talent exchange that WCW and New Japan had in the late 90s. You didn't see anyone saying that New Japan was getting buried in that. You saw a decent talent exchange going back and forth. That's what we're seeing here. It's a good fit. I have no problem with this.
I guess I think what the argument would be as well. Great Muta won a couple of WCW titles.
Hmm.
Masahiro Chono won WCW titles.
Hmm.
You got stars going over to Japan. Like they got Sting, they got the Steiners, they got Rick Rude.
Hmm.
There's a lot of WWE fans who are like, hey, we would like to have some main roster guys. Is that coming or is that just a pipe dream where it's like, look, NXT kids are of a level. We're not sending the main guys because multiple reasons.
It all depends. I think eventually you'll get some of the mid card guys or whatever. The only issue with TNA right now is, especially in the main event picture, they're kind of falling into that rut they were in like 2011 or so, where they're really looking like WWE light, and they need to not do that. They need to be their own entity. My favorite inception of TNA was the Fox Sports Net days in the mid aughts, like '05 to '08 area, like right on the cusp of getting on Spike TV. Like that was my favorite inception of TNA because they had stories going, they had a lot of good talent on the roster, they were finding their own niche. Having people like, and I'm not saying it's bad, but having people like Nemeth and the Hardys and Ali and Elias and all them at the top of your card, it looks like WWE scraps. It's building stuff around guys like Mike Santana. I'm all for it. The system, I thought, ran its course. I think flipping them back heel after making them baby faces for a matter of a couple of weeks and doing that stuff, I think is just passe. I love Eddie Edwards. Me and Eddie had the same trainer. I don't dig Eddie in this role. I think Eddie's a natural baby face. I've never liked him as a heel, unless he has a really good heel mouthpiece, which he does not have right now. Um, but yeah, just TNA needs to make sure that they figure out things on their own and not try to be WWE scraps. They have the pieces, they're working with it. The NXT workability is helping with that. I think in a perfect world that we should see some corporate synergy between the companies where people talk about WWE doesn't do, main roster doesn't do a lot of house shows anymore. But if you notice, they've been ramping up NXT house shows and they've been incorporating AAA people into those NXT house shows. What I think they should do, especially around times of like around like the month either before or after the big four pay-per-views, they should be doing these house show super tours of NXT, AAA, and TNA talent, going to all these things because it gives people more bang for their buck. They're seeing an exchange. They're seeing possible dream matches that they may not see on TV. They're seeing the NXT stars getting their reps. They're seeing former WWE people. It's akin to, you see these wrestling super shows on the indies where it's, there's no story to the matches happening, but there's like 12 ex WWE people on it. They do a meet and greet beforehand, yada yada. That's what these house shows can be. And in the process, TNA is getting more eyeballs on it. WWE NXT talents are getting their reps in. Guys who are on the lower end of the totem pole are working and figuring out things, and maybe they work a series of matches with someone in TNA or one of the NXT kids, and it really clicks. And then they go over to creative and say, "Listen, me and this kid have been doing some great stuff, and lobby for a match on main event. See how the crowd reacts." It's all moving parts. That as long as people are communicating, it can be advantageous to all involved.
I heard this with Coach and Russo, and I guess it's those two. So even Disco chimed in where, they said if you're not ready for TV, you shouldn't be on TV.
Agreed.
TNA's trying to do a lot of this where, and we've seen it, they've signed Harley Hudson and Mila Grace, who look the part, don't know if they can cut a promo. Same with Jada Stone. She can wrestle, can't really cut a promo.
Nope.
Mila Moore. There's no development if you are a TNA group. There's not an NXT they can just send the kids down to and get them. So with TNA, like as you said, you don't want them to have a lot of WWE light guys, but how do you teach then the Jada Stones, the Mila Moores, the Harley Hudsons, even to a lesser extent, I would even throw in there Tasha Steeles, where, all right, it's no longer 100 people, 200 people at these shows. You have 1,000, you have 3,000, 4,000, and you could tell they just start going, uh-oh,
Hmm.
uh-oh.
Hmm.
Like, how do you teach that without bringing WWE people who can literally go, all right, walk it through this, you gotta, you gotta learn, and it's almost, like throwing them in the deep end. Like, is there a perfect way they could do it, or is this the best way possible?
So the way they could be doing it, and this is something that I thought would have happened when they announced the ID program, but hasn't come to fruition yet, is they announced, the ID schools that were there. Obviously, one of them has gone by the wayside, so we'll leave that one out. But you have Booker T's Reality of Wrestling. You have the Pro Wrestling Academy up here in New England and New Hampshire, run by Mike Hollow. You have Cody's school, and you have Seth's school. So you have four schools, all of which, I mean, at least two of them, at least I know of, have an indie attached to them. What should be happening is all four of these places should be running shows, running indie shows. You should be sending ID talents, NXT talents, TNA talents that are on the lower end, that need that seasoning. That's where you should be taping Evolve. You should be doing 4 week blocks of Evolve at you do like you do like a 2 day marathon taping at Reality of Wrestling. You tape 4 hours of Evolve TV, 2 hours one day, 2 hours the next day, however you want to do it. And then within the week that the last episode of that is airing, you send who you need over to New Hampshire and work, because I know they have an indie, I know they have an arena, and you have them work 4 or 5 hours of Evolve tapings there. They're working in front of a different crowd in a different area of the country. They're getting their reps in. In the meantime, it's a school that's there. They can run drills with the students that are there. They can work with each other. They can have the guys who run the school sit there and be like, okay, show me what you think you want to do for your match. Like, not beat for beat, but you know show me, your beginning, your cutoff, your finish, and give them the critique. So before they actually go out and do it in front of fans, be like, okay, this works, this works, this works. It's having the system in place, because you have professionals running these who know how to agent matches and agent segments, which you don't see a lot on the indies. It's trust me, I know. That's what should be happening. Is Evolve should be getting taped at the ID schools, and then once people have gotten enough on that level where they're comfortable in front of those people, you trickle them out to the NXT AAA house shows that are going around to the colleges around the country right now. That way, you're getting people that get seasoned. So by the time you want to throw them on Level Up, which is the same crowd as it is for NXT, so ugh. But at least when you throw them in there, they've got enough seasoning and they've worked in front of different crowds. So that way, when you have the crowd who sees them for the first time or whatever, they're going to do what they do, and the crowd is not going to dictate if they're over or not. You have to be in command of your audience. You cannot leave your audience be in command of you.
All right, so so if you have your head in a hole, you probably don't know, but everybody knows that the head of creative right now for TNA is
Hunter.
Hunter Johnson, Tommy
Mm-hmm.
Dreamer. It's a
Mm-hmm.
two-headed monster. So I'll start. And I know you have relationships with both guys. You've worked with them. I know Kevin did. That's just why I won't ask Kevin because he's very good friends with Tommy Dreamer. Are they the right people for TNA?
Absolutely.
All right,
And,
because
and
you've heard
Tommy,
people complain that TNA is WWE light. It's the baby faces always win the feuds. They need more storylines. So you say they're the right people. Why is that? Why does JJ Alexander say, "Oh, you guys are all idiots. These are the right people for booking"?
I mean, Delirious has proven that he could book with all the time he did in Ring of Honor. Like, through thick and thin, no matter what state Ring of Honor is in, you had Hunter there doing what he could, and he could run a locker room. Tommy has proven Tommy learned under Heyman. He learned how to book under there, so he knows how to do stories. And Tommy still helps out. There's an indie that runs quarterly in Poughkeepsie that he helps out with. Tommy had his own school because Tommy had his own promotion for a while. He had House of Hardcore, which he kind of let by the wayside because he was running TNA. But Tommy knows how to book. Tommy's been around long enough, and Tommy is an approachable, agreeable person where he'll tell you, this is what I want. And if you say, I'm apprehensive about this, or how about if I try this, Tommy will listen to you. He's not just going to be like, this is my way or the highway. Shut up and do what you're told. He'll sit there in open arms. And if he likes it, he'll say, let's tweak this. Or, and this is a Heyman term that anyone that's trained under anyone that's been under Paul Heyman knows is the magic sentence of, I like that, but. And that's when you find out that it's the compliment sandwich, basically. I see what you're getting at. However, this is my vision. We're either going to meet in the middle or we're going to hold that off for another time. I'm not saying that your opinion is not worth anything. It's just not the time for it right now. But yeah, Tommy's great for that. I think what the flaw is in TNA, I think is with who they're signing, because Carlos Silva is not from the wrestling business. And he's in this weird area where he got put in charge and he's taking it way too seriously, to the fact where like he's always got to be there to present the belt to the people. And it's like, no, dude, like, yeah, like I understand you're here to make sure the company makes money. And that is great. But you are still very much an outsider, and it doesn't translate well to the casual audience because no one knows who you are. You didn't come from a wrestling background, but you're there, and you're in the foreground constantly, like, and you don't talk. Like, that's the other problem. Like, you're just there. It's not like you're Jack Tunney and they have you do a pre-record to say like, this match is official because this, that, and the other thing. You're just there. Like, that Carlos Silva needs to not be seen.
And in
Like,
fairness, he's ever since I'd say Daria Ray's the replacement for him. Like we've seen last couple weeks, we
yeah.
haven't seen him. It's been Daria who's now sort of presenting the belt, being the heel
Hmm.
GM. So I give him credit for that.
Yeah. But that's also, it's like you have two authority figures on a show that's got what, 2 hours a week of TV.
Yeah.
Like, that's overkill.
So this will be the first part.
Hmm.
Do they have to start pushing out certain WWE people like Santino Marella, like the
I think
Hardys?
I think Santino's great in his role. Um, as goofy as he is, he gets a crowd reaction, and that's what matters. The Hardys, I know they're there to get paid and everything, but it's looking to be retirement time, and that's just me saying that from a concern for both their health. Like, you can tell, like, they're hurt. Like, they gave a lot to this business, and they're in that they're in that rock and roll express mindset where they got to keep working. But the difference is, like, Ricky Morton can still go because Ricky was always safe and didn't do a lot of crazy stuff. Even James Gibson was like, I'm kind of getting up there in years, so that's why I'm going to retire. But Ricky's still going because they work safe. The Hardys did a lot of stuff that hurt their bodies, and it's not like they did it years ago and stopped and are still going. They were doing it in AEW 3 years ago. So they need to look at the retirement angle. And honestly, WWE, once they're retired, will give them the red carpet treatment. We'll have them come in as guest trainers at the PC, have them, sit there on panels and stuff. Like, they'll be there for that as long as they stay clean, which I'm pretty sure they will. But yeah, it's time for them to retire.
Like that's the trick with TNA. The Hardys are a draw. You
Mm-hmm.
can name drop them and they will draw. They are the
Right.
reason, according to a lot of people, that AMC was interested because hey, it's the Hardys. Everybody knows them. So
Right.
again, like I think Santino needs to go. Yes, he gets over, but at the expense of other people. You
Hmm.
can phase him out, and Dario Ray is perfect to take over. The Hardys are sort of tough because, like, okay, you get rid of them. That's two of your biggest names. Those are the ones
Right.
you can send out to meet and greets, TV execs, and they know who they are. Like, I get you don't want to sign W people, but who's out there in the indies that can draw, that makes money? That Tony Khan is not just going, "Hey, here's a 3-year deal, get all
Right.
money guaranteed, 6 figures, woo!"
Right. And I think that's why the more seasoned people in TNA are trying to make new stars. Like luckily they have with Mike Santana. Mike Santana is, and that's a kid I worked with him years ago when he was still in a tag team, and I was like, I don't know if these kids are going to be anything more than spot monkeys. He proved me wrong. I'm very thankful he did. He's a great kid. Um, but it took him years to find that spot, but at least he found that notch and they're making him into a good focal point for the company. I think they're trying to do the same with the Righteous, which is all right. However, Vinny's my age, Dutch is my age. They got a shelf life. That's the way it is. So you can elevate them, but they're only going to be around for X amount of years. Even trying to make Elijah bigger than like he has a ceiling. He's a mid card act. He's not someone that can carry your company. As over as he can get, he's a mid card act. So I see them trying. Unfortunately, the like I'm sorry, but Mustafa Ali is never going to be a guy that can carry your company. I'm sorry. Like he has a ceiling. A lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people think that he can do it, but no, like there's a reason why years ago he got pulled out and replaced with Kofi, and that's a story for another day. But
So what is he missing? That's because that's the one he can talk. He can wrestle. He can work. He's not a spot monkey like the Young Bucks, or even I hate as much as I love them, the Rascals. Like he can work a match where it's like, okay, we're gonna do this, this, and this. I don't have to do all the high flying. He can work as a heel. He's great. Like, what is it? The size? Like, what is it about Mustafa Ali that you
it's
go?
it's the size and it's just the fact that yeah, he can talk somewhat, but there's levels to it. I've tried to talk to people about how, it's he's as when I say he's as over as he's going to be, and that's not an insult to him, but it's things that a lot of wrestlers don't seem to realize is there's levels to over. There's indie over, then there's lower tier TV over, then there's main roster over. Lower tier TV is like ROH before Tony Khan screwed it up, or TNA or MLW. It's that next step above just traveling indies. And certain things you can be over you can be over like gangbusters, but then you get to the next one and you're not quite as over. Bill what do you call it? Bill Morrissey. Perfect example. Yeah, dude 7 feet tall. Um his ceiling was in TNA. They put him in AEW, and yes, Tony's booking is terrible, but there's a reason why WWE never called him back. You can only get so far. Ali is as over as he's going to get. He's that low level tier over, but not able to carry a company. And also, like the whole stable he's with it's kind of like a Three Stooges bit going on right now, where his guys can't beat up a girl. Like his muscle that's Bill Collier. It's another guy who's my age. Like he ain't gonna be around much longer. Like not working, and he's okay. He's a bit taller, but he's not Kevin Nash.
So who could they sign then that wants to come to TNA that Tony Khan's not going to just sweep in with an offer? Because they only signed one WB guy of the last cut cycle. That was Cedric Alexander, who
Mm-hmm.
I get, good worker, can get over a bit. you can work him with a lot of people, and he looks still in great shape.
And he's someone they need because they really desperately need to rebuild the X division. The X division is what put TNA on the map. And that's one of the things about the niche where not everyone needs to be a talker with the X division. They just need to be able to be that spectacle, but in a less is more element. That's the problem is AEW is everyone's a gymnast and it's a half-hour long gymnast routine. The X division was great because you would see these guys who would do these high spots, but it would be a physical match. You'd get 4 high spots total in the match, maybe 2 false finishes, and you kept the crowd happy. They need to rebuild the X division. That's why Cedric's there, because we all know that Leon Slater is getting signed by WWE the moment his TNA contract is set to expire. He's that WWE wants him. So you need to rebuild the X division. So having Cedric there is good. I would consider maybe some people who are in AAA that WWE may not want to may not see as their caliber for TV, like, because obviously not every luchador gimmick is going to be super over on main TV and WWE. And you're not everyone's not going to be as over as Mr. Iguana. So they could use some of the people like AAA's current La Parca would do great in TNA. Probably, let's see here.
Like it's tough because you sit there and you think, and then it's like, well, Tony's going to go nuts and sign him. Like in a perfect world, the Outrunners would be in TNA, the Von Erichs would be in TNA, but Tony's just going to offer a 3-year deal. Like
Right.
I hate to say it, but is AEW the worst thing for pro wrestling because they just have created this mindset of, oh well, I just want to get paid, so I'm going to go AEW and screw trying to get better because hey, I have a guaranteed money.
1,000%. And that's the problem. Because that's the problem. Like you mentioned the Von Erichs. When the Von Erichs were in MLW, I was like, these guys have it. These guys need to get signed. And then they chose the short money, which is they're not getting any younger. And by the time their AEW contract's up, WWE is going to be like, you guys are in your 40s. Like, we can't do anything with you. We're sorry. Like, that ship has sailed. The Outrunners would be perfect in TNA. You're right. They're a TNA gimmick. Hammerstone. If WWE's not going to pick up Hammerstone, let TNA use him.
They
TNA could
tried,
make him
and
their
he
focal
just
point.
again, it's for him. It seems like the injuries.
It was more than the injuries. It's the fact that Hammerstone loves doing his bodybuilding competitions, and those conflict with the schedule. So he likes still working with MLW because they'll work around his bodybuilding competition schedule. He is not 100% dedicated to wrestling, which is a shame because he's got every tool possible. And if TNA had him, it would be great. If TNA were to offer money to Killer Cross, they could build stuff around him. He's already established from that company, and him and Scarlett, and they can go back to TNA now without an issue because Callis is gone from there. He would be great for them right now. Even guys that Tony threw by the wayside that never got a chance. I think EJ and Duca, if he still wanted to work, would do gangbusters in TNA. He had a great look. He learned how to talk in MLW. Tony did nothing with him. He had him on one episode of Collision and one episode of ROH, and then got rid of him. Like he would do well in TNA. There are guys out there. Richard Holiday. I love Holiday. He's from Connecticut. I remember when he was first training at Paul Roma's school. Great kid, amazing talent. Unfortunately, WWE may never pick him up because they're worried about his health, which
And
sucks.
TNA's interested, but again, it
Yeah,
goes back to
exactly.
who else is interested? Tony Khan.
The thing is, if Tony Khan was interested in Holiday, he would have pulled the trigger by now. Like, Rich and MJF have been boys since they were both working on the indies around here. I think Tony, I'm not sure what it is, but Tony don't want to sign Holiday. So TNA really needs to get him in. I mean, like last I heard, I thought like he was like ink was about to be on the paper with them, but I don't know. I guess not yet.
Does it also hurt? Last two questions. Because of his good relationship with WWE, they seem to steer clear now of people they would have brought in, like Killer Cross, Odyssey Jones, Matt Riddle. Those would usually be in TNA, but you get the sense like, ooh, wait a minute. They sort of shot their way out of town or burned bridges out of town or got arrested, but it was false. But still released. Does that hurt when you hear like even Elena Black going, I almost didn't sign with TNA because they're very tight with WWE. Like you're not sure where WWE starts and TNA ends, and there was always, the people going, well, they're gonna be bought out anytime soon now.
They're not going to get bought out. It's that people need to stop worrying about that. That's not going to happen. WWE is not going to buy TNA. WWE sees an advantage of the professional relationship they currently have with them. Buying them would not help anyone. Plus, especially because they're seeing that this can work out to be advantageous for both ends. Because then you got people like Court Bauer and MLW who are still in this us versus them mentality. And we're not in that world anymore. And that's why AEW is never going to beat WWE. Like that's the overlying reason, not to mention everything else that goes down the list. But TNA working with WWE, there's better to have corporate synergy than just have one consume the other. As far as other talents like MLW, like they picked up Riddle. Riddle is Riddle's damaged goods. Cross, I don't think is damaged goods. Cross just got a raw deal, and Cross does not get along with Bruce Pritchard. And that's something that when Pritchard finally retires, we won't have to worry about that anymore because he's the last remnant of the Vince old guard and the Vince way of thinking that prevents someone like Killer Cross from reaching his potential. But in the meantime, Cross should go to TNA. Odyssey Jones, I never really saw anything in him, so wherever he goes, I don't care. Um, who else
Even
was there?
Shotzi Blackheart, you could argue like,
Yeah, I love Shotzi.
but again, TNA, you get the sense TNA doesn't want to piss off WWE. So if you shot your way out of town, if you said cross things, they because they don't want to piss off WWE, they're gonna go, yeah, it's not right that time. Let's just put a pause in that. Is that good overall, or is that something that they might have to one day go, hey, look, we got to bring these people in. I know they didn't get along with you, but we really need to bring them in since you're going to be taking our Leon Slaters as soon as their contracts are up.
I think that there is room to have an amicable conversation, like without anything, bad like that happening, especially because they're going to be looking at younger talents to bring in to do it. Kerry Morton and Silas Mason are ready to be seen on a televised stage and not be slumming it anymore. Both of them have a huge future ahead. Um, Even the guys from NWA, Kratos and the Titans, like TNA could make money with them. Like they're huge. Like they look like world beaters. They look like ass kickers. You do something with them because NWA is just they're anyone who's like working long term in NWA, like you're on a sinking ship. Like get out of there.
So last question for let you go, and I know BQ of a negative BQ show TNA guys argued they need to bring in Hollywood writers. Get it so it doesn't sound so hokey and fake pro wrestling like. And I know people criticize, but I look around the landscape. Are there any good writers in pro wrestling who are not hired? Let's say Tommy Dreamer and Hunter were fired. If Yernick gets his wish, is there anybody to replace him? Whether it's an Al Snow or dare I say, Rodriguez back. I forget his name. Who used to do the Spy Kid stuff. Like, is there anybody you could bring,
Robert
or is there
Rodriguez.
just like nobody for booking because it's just
No,
territories are dead. Billy Corgan's basically a booker, I guess, like Tony Khan, and this is what you have. This is the best of the best. And
no,
yes,
there's people that can book that are out there. It's it's a matter of some people need to get they need to get seen to be able to do it. It's Al Snow is a great example. Al Snow, is keeping OVW alive, which is great. As far as Hollywood writers, I know people who worked on the creative team in Stamford, and I know, and some of the people I know were indie workers who got hired as creative guys on, and then they went on to do other things. They're out in Hollywood now doing stuff. But the problem with the writers that WWE uses is they're reality TV writers. They're non-union, and because that's how they're seen. And unfortunately, like they just kind of go around in the same circles. Because I was at a couple of years ago, I was at a friend's wedding. It was a wrestler. So of course it was all wrestlers and stuff at the reception. You know, saw a couple of friends we hadn't seen in a while, a couple of whom were ex WWE creative, and talking to them. They're like, yeah, we all got together when it was some PLA, or it might have been the Rumble or something was happening in LA. And he's like, yeah, we all like got together at the bar. And he's like, it's like that scene in The Deer Hunter. Like all of us like have this awful PTSD from working for Vince. And it's like, yeah, this person's working on Big Brother now, and this person got hired for this season of Survivor, and this one's working on Love Island. And it's just like if you don't have a wrestling background, you really shouldn't be in this. Like I understand trying to bring it. Unfortunately, there was this really bad example put out by bringing in Jen Pepperman because she wrote for soap operas. uh I think that time has passed. I think having creative writers, I'm fine with. Whether they be Hollywood people, eh.
Or even
I think
TV
you
people, like people who wrote for like Sons of Anarchy or Mayans.
oh
People who
god.
understand like this is how real people talk.
I put out a theory about that years ago on my on our old Full Circle radio show, where I talked about finding writers like who worked under people like Vince Gilligan, like when a show like Hell on Wheels or Longmire ended, like get some of those writers to one or two of them to sit in on the team with a bunch of workers, have the workers show them this is what the business is, and then have them collaborate on a story. That would be advantageous. I agree with that. Having the majority of it be writers, not a fan. You need to have a balance.
So is there enough people though who want to do it though, do you think? I
That's the
mean,
problem.
WWE is a whole different beast. Yeah, because hey, it's WWE. It's like working for the NFL,
Mhm.
MLB. You get the name drop. Is there people who would work for TNA or even AEW if Tony decides, all right, I'm finally going to give up the book and let him, or would they just look and go, oh, this is pro wrestling. It's too carny. It's too weird. This is goofy. I don't want to be associated. I'd rather write for porn than pro wrestling.
It's not the matter of them thinking it's too weird or whatever. It's the fact that it's a non-union job, and that's a Hollywood beast. Is once you're in the union, you don't take non-union work, and unfortunately, WWE is not seen as union. Like if they were to lobby and say, and if they were to lobby and say we want to hire union writers and get in union people who worked for, who worked on soap operas or long-term story shows like Paramount Plus shows and everything, if they want to put out that olive branch and say we will hire union people, that would be a different story. Unfortunately, once that magical word union appears, then the workers go, where's our union? And it's a domino effect. So unfortunately, if you want the good writers, you got to be union. If you don't want to be union, you're stuck with reality TV writers who suck.
Very happy, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we love having him on. We got to bring him back on again once, WrestleMania season comes, but he's going to be busy as hell. I give you once again, you can check him out on Tony Talk Wrestling at times. He is also on Full Circle Radio on his own YouTube channel. I give you pro wrestling manager, commentator, booker, promoter. I give you it's JJ Alexander. So JJ, before I let you go, where can fans check you out at? Where is the Twitter, Instagram, the website, YouTube channel? There's probably a Rumble channel also. Where can
No.
fans hit you up at?
No, yeah, yeah, youtube.com/ at Full Circle Radio is the Full Circle Radio Network. That's where you get the content of our wrestling podcast, White Heat, our movie review podcast, Wildcard Cinema, as well as our watch along show, Cinematic Jackass. You can find me on Twitter, JJ_Alexander. You can find the official Twitter of our channel, FCR_network. We've got a Facebook page, Full Circle Radio Network. Besides that, I keep everything else to myself as far as like Instagram and stuff. I post random pictures of my dog, so like no one really follows that. But yeah, that's pretty much, stick with the YouTube channel for the content. We're also on Odyssey. Which I know is a burgeoning platform that some people are getting into. ODYSEE. That's where you can also find our content as well.
JJ Alexander, ladies and gentlemen, once again, always on a pleasure having you on the show. We come back. We got a lot more going on here, only on It's Last Call. Last Call to Alcohol, only on the Last Call Podcast.com.